Hey guys, Todd here with you. Welcome back to Bassin 101. Sorry I sound kind of weird. I've been under the weather for the last almost week. But I'm alright. But what I've got here is a Daiwa PR10G. These are roughly early 1986, maybe very late 85. But these are some sweet reels when you put bearings in them. It's not that bad. I mean, it seems to be moving okay. All the writing is pretty much gone from the cap. Some guys pull the caps off. I kind of like it to be on there. That kind of gives it a little bit of traditional look to it. And it doesn't bother me. My thumb usually stays right about here anyway. But the rest of it's in really good shape. It does need some cleaning up on here. But inside the frame, it has your natural, dirtiness to it. But it's not that bad. These are kind of froze over. Plus, they're also dirty. So we'll clean those up. This has been kind of anodized a little bit, kind of a clear black, but that's okay. I don't mind that. And as far as that goes, it's not too bad. That's a little hard to push in. We'll fix that. I got the drag on 0. Let's start taking this thing apart and let's see what we got in here. There you can see the discoloration right there. See that? Where the dude was on there all that time. So the back's still black. That's not bad though. We'll do something with that. I'll leave that on. I'm going to work on this side first. Okay, let me explain something to you here on these Daiwas. When it comes to the mag force, you don't want to this is, well, I just did it. Actually, yeah, let me go ahead and do that so you guys can see how we do this, or how I do this. Okay, did you hear it unspring? Alright, this is one of the reasons I set this down to 0. Because once I change this out and put a bearing in here, I'm going to leave all this old grease in here, because all this does is operates the turn. This right here. That's all it does. So I'm not really worried about that. And they use a very soft lubricant in there, so that to me is fine. This doesn't need to be oiled or clean. It's still in good shape. But I am going to take out this. There we go. Let's take out the bearing. It's just a graphite bearing, which they work fine back in the day, but eventually they do get wore out. Now, the bearings on these old Daiwas, especially through the 80s. Majority of them were 5x9x3s. Now, I'm going to head to the footwork for you. So it took me a while to figure out what this size was because I did not have a micrometer several years ago. So it took me a lot of forums to get on, contacting Daiwa and everything. But a 5x9x3 will do all of your Daiwas from the very first PL100s, which I did one not too long ago, all the way through most of the 80s. That will take care of these reels. And believe it or not, this spool is interchangeable with the early mag forces. The very first PMF10S, which I have. If you've got a bunch of these and Daiwa PM10Ss, you've got some HT1000s, all that kind of stuff, you can interchange these spools in all of these reels. So if you want to buy some junk ones that are just trashed, you can get the spools out, put different line on them, and just keep them in a bag. If you want to just put a different line on there, just pop the cap off. Actually, this is the side you want to pop off. Pull the spool out, put a new one in there, screw this back on, you get back to fishing with a different kind of line. So buy junked ones if you want to, because these are interchangeable. And we'll set that spool to the side. So let's take the new bearing. First, I'll take out all the old oil, just a little bit. This thing's never been lubed. Drop that bearing in there. These clips are a little ornery when you got magnets around them, because they want to stick to the magnets. There we go. I'll take some blaster lube, which I've shown you guys before. Oil the bearing and all that, and we're good. Now, I'm not going to do anything with this yet. Set this to the side, because you got the worm gear, and I want to take that out. Another reason I loop that stem. There we go. There we go. That popped out. Yeah, that's pretty dirty. That's why I tore that apart. I'm actually going to take this over to the sink. I'm actually going to wash this frame out. Get some of this stuff out of here. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I went to the kitchen sink and took a toothbrush and some Dawn, scrubbed the inside of the frame, the feet, and everything else really good. Man, it turned out really nice. Scrubbed the thumb bar. And Dawn, guys, not your typical store-bought dish liquid. I'm talking about actual Dawn. That's what cleans these reels better than anything else. if you're trying to get the grease off of stuff. Okay. So let's do the worm gears. Let's get these things cleaned up. And look how dirty the line was, or the line guide was. That's crazy. Nice. Now let's put it all back together. Got my grease. With just a little drop of the lube. This is the interesting part, trying to get all of this to go back together. See, I'm trying to get it to fit back in that hole. There it goes. See, now I'm in the hole. So if you have a hard time getting it to line up, guys, just take your pair of pliers, just hold that guide in there, and slip that rod through it. But now, keep your finger on that guide, or on that post right there. So now we'll put this back in there. It has to go through the line guide to do it. So I'm going to try to line that up. Okay, now the worm gear. Now the worm gear's got a slot too that it has to fit. There she goes. Now, I'm going to put Some grease on this dude. I'm actually going to hold it by the pliers. I'll start turning this to make sure it seats, which it's not going to. That's okay. That's okay. There's all kinds of ways to get these things to go on here. Sometimes they drop right in. Sometimes you got to put the cap on there to kind of talk them into it. Just go to have a little bit of force. Start turning this. Okay, that's not wanting to work, so let me show you another way of doing this. By taking a pair of pliers, you can turn this dude doesn't take much. Because you're not sure where in the crosshairs it's going to be laying. I just heard it, I just felt it snap down. Okay. That's pretty good. It gives me a chance to show you how to troubleshoot issues that you're going to have, especially when trying to put the worm gear back in. Now again, I'm not going to snug this down. Now I can tighten it because I know it's in there. See that? So that's the worm gear assembly with a clean guide and everything. So we're good to go. Now I want to lay this on its side so this pin doesn't pop back out. Alright, so now we can put this back together. Now this is where it gets interesting, because you've got this cap that sits on here. And you got this one that sits on top of it. Okay, it sits like that. Okay, so what I've done, I've turned this on 10. And we got this cap that goes in here. It's going to line itself on the teeth. Now, since we're holding it in there, I'm going to turn this down to 0. I almost forgot. I wanted to show you guys something about when you go to put this back together. Now, I showed you what I did with the 10, and I put this on and went to 0, but there's a notch right here on this cap that has to fit this notch right here, because if you don't, you will not get a flush fit. It'll sit there and rock back and forth. I just wonder, I happen to think about that. I just want to let you guys know about that in case you're having issues. So I know some of you guys have these reels, Now, one thing I want to do is I got some gunk right here. I'm going to see what happens with some WD-40, well, not WD-40, Line of Real Magic and a rag. Wow, it's breaking it up. Look at that. I can scratch it off. Well, let's do this. Let's take some Dawn and bleach. I'm not sure what that was. I'll tell you what, it's gone. It's gone. That's a good mixture to have. I've shown you guys this. That's a good mixture to have. Just Dawn with a little bit of bleach, with some water. Takes out the stubborn stuff. Now I'll use Line of Real Magic and really wipe this side down good. Look at that. Alright, let's get this side. You can tell I gotta do some cleaning on this right here. I'll go ahead and pull this off too. It's actually pretty clean. Wow. There we go. Just a little tap is all you gotta do. In case you're wondering what this is the anti-reverse switch. When you have it on, you can't crank backwards. When you cut it off, you can crank backwards. Pretty clever little deal, but I've never used it. Yeah, obviously it didn't take off, or else they would have kept putting them in the reels. Let's see what we've got in here. I don't see any dirt, so we're good there. That was a little dirty. It all looks pretty clean. Let's always get the springs off. I'm going to lift this along with the anti-reverse clip. Then we can remove that. Alright, so looking around here, it is fairly dry. Actually, I don't see anything even smearing. So nothing to clean, which is good. So it has never been oiled. It probably started getting stiff and they just decided to put it up. Actually, this all looks really good too. don't even see any oil to clean off of it. Okay. Well, that kind of makes everything a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and add the synthetic gear lube to the places it needs to go. Definitely make it to where it's easier to operate the thumb bar. I'll put a little bit here, a little bit on. I mean, this is even clean. I mean, because I don't even see. Yeah, I didn't get much anything off of that. So we'll put some lube on there and put some grease on that too, as well as this. Put grease on these because it does help with the button, because it allows this to go up and down a whole lot easier. Just trying to help that thumb bar out. I normally don't do these. You see me guys do these kind of reels. I normally don't do these, but because the thumb bar is a little stiff, I will put that on there. So we're good for that. And we'll put some gear lube in here. Because this is a moving part, put some gear lube on that, because it'll also feed the grease that comes off of the main gear. Okay, this is clean. So since this sits in the slot right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and just put grease on it, because it's it'll definitely help it. It'll last longer than the lube will. And I'll put some grease along the teeth. Not using much, just a little bit. Just kind of spreading that out some. Now for this, I'm going to use synthetic gear lube. And I do that because the gear plate does spin on it. Looking at the drag, everything looks good. I think I will put, just because it's old, we'll put 1-2 drops on either side. I know a lot of you guys are thinking, what is he doing? Trust me, it doesn't hurt the drag. It doesn't slow the drag down. It just allows it to be a little smoother. You know, some guys say, you don't know the drag. Well, sometimes I do. I mean, these gears are just bone dry. Sure, I put plenty on the teeth, on the feet. You don't want too much, because if you do, then all of it splashes inside of here. And now, about that? Now let me put the drag washers back on. And I've said this before, guys, and I'll repeat it again. These washers are bent. Make sure they're opposite of each other, either cup that way or cup the opposite way. And then I will take a little grease that I have left. I'll just put on the threads for the star drag. And that's all I need for the grease. Alright, let's just wash this thing off. Actually, you know what? Since I've got it fully disassembled, I'm just going to go to the sink and do it. Okay, now I've shown you guys you can use a toothbrush and the Dawn, you can use the line of Real Magic and everything, but since I do my real repair filmings in the kitchen, it's just easier to go to the sink and wash everything off with Dawn and toothbrush. And that's beautiful. So we'll put this back together. I am going to use some plaster lube. Put that cap in there. Put some plaster lube there. I'll put this back in there. And what this does is this catches this right here. So when you move it back, it pushes this back. When you move it forward, it pushes it forward into here so you can't wind backwards with it. That's all that switch does, and I'll be honest with you, I think it's completely useless. But that's just me. So let's put this back in here. Put the springs back on. Very carefully. I've got this pushed forward. I got the anti-reverse pushed all the way forward. See, there you go. But that's useless to me, so don't know why Daiwa did that. I mean, I'm sure it's really cool, you know, if you get into a big striper or something, you got a back reel like you would a spinning rod. I guess that's a possibility, but it's a cool feature, I guess. And some of you guys are probably out there thinking, there's anti-reverse switch on casting reels? Yep, and as far as I know, this is the first reel to ever have it. And as far as I also know, I think this is the only model that Daiwa put out that had that. Like I said, it's a cool feature, but it's just something I don't use. Okay, so now we're going to take this out. Another little retaining clip. So keep your thumb on it, guys, because it will pop out. There we go. There she goes. And we got the new bearing. Don't take your thumb off until it snaps in there. There she goes. And then we'll put some blaster lube on that. Now, spool looks clean. Alright, we'll put a drop of blaster back here along the shaft. You got to push that thumb bar up to get it to go together. Barely snug these down. Okay, this looks pretty clean, so let's put this back on. Man, see how much easier it goes on once you grease it. Man, I didn't have to use the pliers at all. That's pretty awesome. We go with our cap washer, and then, well, I'll tell you what, this is just a lot easier if you just do it without the reel. I'm going to take some Dawn and water, rather than going to the sink. I seem to just work these like this because I like to keep it dry inside of here so I can oil it. Look at that, with some Dawn and water compared to the dirty one. And these are actually, they look plastic, but they're actually, they have a little bit of soft texture to them. It's not much, but it's, I don't mind using them as they are. Of course, I do have gator grips on some other ones too, so. I'm sure some of you guys remember the old gator grips. All right. Now, since these are stout, I'm going to take some blaster lube. Start working these. Oh, look here. Remember, they wouldn't turn. They turn now. Alright, let's wipe this dude down. Shoot, we're going to have ourselves some good handles now. I mean, they even feel tacky since they've been cleaned. Let's go ahead and clean this side plate off again. Alright, again, very carefully. That piece on there just like that. Just be careful with it. You want to hit it square center. Just snug it. You want to line that washer up to the hole. Let's check this. I think my finger can clean it. There we go. That's still in really good shape. I say line that up because see, this has got teeth in it. You want that screw hole to line up. And so in case you guys want to know, there are two ways to line this up. The flat side dead center with a screw hole, or as you tighten it, I'm going to loosen this so I can just show you for deal here. The point is facing the hole, but it's tighter with the flat side without over tightening it. You don't want to over tighten it, but that way the flat side's towards the hole and it fits on there perfect. I don't explain that stuff a lot of times. I just throw it together, and I figured this would be a good troubleshooting deal for you. Perfect. All right, we got some plate there. Let's turn on 10. Yep, magnets are working. Back on 0. And let's to the thumb bar. Isn't that nice? It's so easy to push down. Remember, I was having to force it? Now, like I said about the magnets, on these old mag forces, or actually, I guess any kind of reel, really, when you go to pull the side cap off, if it does come apart and you hear it go zzz, like it did here, before you pull it apart, always put it on 0, because it's going to decrease your chances of that happening, because you basically have the magnet on a 0 deal. But if it does come loose, crank it on 10 and then put your magnet in the way it's supposed to be. Then once you get it all put together, then you crank it back down to 0. What you're doing is you're forcing the magnet the way it's supposed to be. You got the one magnet here, the one here, and you're forcing it to go into position. Because when you start going the other direction is when the magnet actually pulls that spool and it keeps it from moving. Let's see if I can show you this really good. See? So let's loosen this a little bit. Yeah. That's nice. So these reels here I use on my vintage Berkeley lightning rods because they're just slick as dog snot, especially once you put the bearings in them. You get rid of these old graphite bearings and you put in some good ball bearings in here. Now you just get these off of eBay, guys. You don't have to spend a fortune on Bocas or anything like that. Just a standard, just standard ball bearings you can get off eBay in a package of 10 or whatever. They work fine on these reels. They work very well on these reels. I have no complaints with them. Listen how smooth that is. And the spool, very quiet. So there you go, guys. A Daiwa PR10G, which looks almost new out of the box, except for just the writing being worn off the plate, which what little bit of a Daiwa logo was left, I cleaned off when I washed it in the sink. That's okay. That's not going to hurt nothing. I mean, if I ever find one that's junked, but it's got a really good cap on it, maybe I'll buy that just to get the cap to put it on this. But other than that, that's beautiful. That's really good. We got it all cleaned up good. That's just nice. So anyway, I hope you guys learned something with this PR10G and maybe even some other reels that you got laying around that you can fix. And I hope some of the troubleshooting helped you out too. So again, sorry about my voice. Getting sick is getting sick. We expect. It's been several years, so I guess I was due one, huh? So anyway, until next time, remember, new techniques are trendy, but bass never change. May the Father bless you, keeping Yeshua's name, and as always, fish on. Hey, Maybe I could start singing bass for the Statler Brothers. Do you know?